Elucidating, sometimes irreverent, always opinionated commentary from our panel of analysts. Let's look back at the week that was, and what a week it was in politics, social issues and current events, including, of course, this firing we've just been talking about with immediate effect of Nigeria's military chiefs. And with me in the studio are Honorable Zachary Mohammed, who was the chairman of the House Committee on Media and Public Affairs and member Constitution Review Committee in the 7th National Assembly. Ezenwa, who is the Executive Director, Peering Advocacy and Advancement Center in Africa, or PAACA, and was more recently chairman of the group Partners for Electoral Reform, and of course Arise news analyst and former chairman of the editorial board of Daily Trust newspaper, Mahmood Jega. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Let me start with you, Zachary Mohammed. Any thoughts on why this reshuffle of the top military brass has taken place now?
Yeah, as a student of defense and security studies, I just know that Mr. President is within his behest to hire and fire. And of course, I'm sure he's not unconnected with the recent news we're hearing that some senior officers were involved in, they were actually not satisfied with the run of things, and of course they said there was a coup. So it's all connected with that. That's, I mean, every administration wants to do self-preservation, and I'm sure that in that direction the president decides to at least reshuffle his security team so that he can face the challenges ahead.
Right. Okay. Let me come to you, Mahmood Jega. Is there any way that we can objectively say that this Tinubu administration's fight against insecurity has been a success? And to that extent, how do we relate that to this reshuffle of the top military brass?
Well, you see, this change that the president has done after 2.5 years in office at least corrects one issue when the public was complaining during the Buhari regime that he did not change service chiefs for so many years, and that caused stagnation, and so many courses below the service chiefs had to retire without realizing their own career fulfillment. So this one at least corrects that impression. Even though when you think about it, the president also extended the tenure of, for example, the Controller General of Customs, the Inspector General of Police, and only yesterday the Surveyor General of the Federation, and you would have thought that the same principle applies, because those extensions will cause some officers to reach retirement age without. But the most striking feature is that these changes came just when in the last 1 week there have been all these rumors about a possible coup. Defense headquarters denied it and said the officers they committed some misconduct and are going to face court-martial. But unfortunately, in the minds of most Nigerians, these changes kind of confirm that yes, something must have been seriously amiss for the service chiefs to be swept aside, and even retaining the Chief of Defense Intelligence, because the reports we had were that he was central to the arrest of these officers and their investigation and possible prosecution. So possibly the presidency is happy with the role he played and is still playing, but is not happy with the role some of the other service chiefs, maybe the Chief of Defense Staff, played, and that's why there have been changes. But all these are at the level of speculation. But the timing certainly reinforces some of the rumors of the last 1 week.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that. I don't know if we've got Mr. Nwagu right. He's in our off-site studio, and we're trying to see if we can hook him up. But let me come back to you then, Mr. Mohammed, because in the context of what Mr. Jega was just saying, this decision to remove the Chief of Defense Staff and other service chiefs is heavy with significance.
Well, While you don't have to, yes, of course, like Jega said, it's the realm, or it has fortified the rumor mills more on exactly what is happening, even though the defense headquarters have gone to deny, which is, of course, is usual with government in these parts of the world. But the truth of the matter is that why didn't it happen a year ago? But of course, and why the timing? So I think that the president has absolute rights, and of course, constitutionally has been empowered to change his team as at when due and when he thinks the occasion is appropriate. So I'm sure that I'm just surprised the handlers of the president will have just come clean and say, we did this because we know exactly, we heard that there were some infractions, and that's all. And of course, everything is about preservation of democracy anyway.
Yeah, well, you were, of course, the publicity chief at the National Assembly at one point. You would be in a position to know why that kind of thing is never made public.
Well, Charles, I don't speak for government, so
I know you don't, but at one point you did.
Yeah, I understand. I understand. Sometimes, of course, it's just the floor management, of course, talk about audience management, and of course, maybe that's exactly why they decide to do that. But I would have just, if I were in their position, is just to not every detail will be left out, but of course, you will just bring out the silent points. And of course, Nigerians are very intelligent people, and whatever you do, you should be sure that some Nigerians are some steps ahead of us.
Right. Okay, let me go to our off-site studio and hope that Mr. Nwagu can hear me. Can you hear us? I hope so. Nod vigorously if you can.
Yes, Charles, I can hear you.
Brilliant. I don't know if you've heard the rest of the conversation going on here, but as briefly as you can so that we can move on. Can it be said, because I think Mahmoud Jega was making that point peripherally a minute ago, can it be said that this reshuffle suggests that the president is trying to get on top of the never-ending insecurity crisis in this country?
Well, that's a possibility, but the bigger question will be, like a colleague there said, the timing and what it speaks about the fragility of our current democratic experience. The scare that unveiled last week, and then the reshufflement that we have seen currently, points to the fact that there is something unsettling, clearly unsettling around government and the challenges of governance that the country currently faces. But whether these changes will nip all of that in the bud, only time will tell. There are not exactly new people in the saddle. Most of these, the appointees and the ones that are there are actually people who have played or currently playing one role or the other. They didn't come from outside. In some sense, these are top military security brass themselves. So they need to come to the saddle and see what they bring to the table. But I think it is about self-preservation. I think it is much more also about how to ensure that the regime continues to stay as much as it wants to. But clearly, it's a test to the fragility of our current democracy.
Well, let's move on, because this week there have been calls in the National Assembly for amendments to the Electoral Act that will strengthen the transparency of Nigeria's elections. And many of those calls have emphatically been about the necessity for electronic voting and the electronic transmission of results. And as the debate on the Electoral Act amendment got underway in the Senate this week, some senators were also stressing the need to shift the burden of proof in electoral matters so that the Electoral Commission INEC bears the responsibility of proving that the election it conducts are in conformity with the laws, guidelines and rules, rather than leaving that burden to the contestants. Let me come to you, Mahmoud Jega. So the new electoral bill has now passed second reading. I mean, from what you've seen of the debate, I mean, does it look like the National Assembly will vote to repeal the current Electoral Act and enact the new one that's being proposed?